Battle started.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a King of the Hill on Claymore, where we have 5 kings all facing off against 2 peasants, and then once the chaos begins and once kings and peasants start falling, they'll start to break out and attack one another. Usual rules apply: 10-minute no rush, 45% bonus in the middle, and communism is well and truly allowed. Air is definitely off because trying to defend against everything would be quite the difficult. We've got a new high-level player joining us today in the middle. Pro Randy is giving himself a go at the king position, and he's going to be facing off against Brasky and Autolab, 2 players that are not overly familiar with the game, and definitely looking like a reasonably stacked kings team. But we also know that a couple of these kings do like to go quite greedy, so they may fall to some early aggression. Joining me on this cast today is AllReasonNoLogic fame Twig, and in the game we have AllReasonNoLogic fame Tank Tom. This one's being recorded live on our live stream. Feel free to jump in on those Sunday nights Australian time, where we do a couple hours of these games. Now let's jump into the action. Twig, what are you seeing and what are your predictions?
I'm seeing a little R in front of Andy. That's the way I'm interpreting this name. I reckon it's Andy with a play on, yeah, you know what. We've got Randy Andy.
Pro Randy, good old Andy.
I've got Sivan here as a support player. I think a little bit confusion at the start of the game. So one of those rules being spelled out is you have these triangles here and you have to beat your triangle before moving on to another triangle. So if a king beats these 2 players here, they can then go and assist this king over in this triangle, etc. But yeah, Sivan just jumping in between the 2. Look, it doesn't matter too much. I don't think it's too important. But picking a side, I think they're helping out Grumpiness here. One of the highest, well, the highest OS player for the peasants. That's going to give, who have we got here? Soldier Wolfie, one of the new players to King of the Hill, a run for their money. Might be a tough start, and I definitely don't recommend building wind right on the edge of that circle there. It's going to be one of the first spots that gets attacked. But then we go into these other corners. All 4 other players here have either played the game or they're one of the best players in the entire game. Duffy, Tank Tom, when you're all kind of OG for King of the Hill mode, know what they're doing.
We get this. One of the amazing things about the King of the Hill Knights is that somehow we've managed to attract a huge skill ceiling, to the point where it can be a struggle for even us as veterans of the game mode to beat some of these high OS players. But we're very glad to see them here. It means that our game mode is enjoyed regardless of the skill level.
It's interesting watching a first timer playing this, and he's gone straight into the typical what we see Regeki or us do these days, and that's construction lab into exactly 5 construction bots going into that wind and build power.
So he is, I think he has lost a little bit of metal to overflow. One of the things you do need to do if you're going to eat that lab, because of that plus 45% reclaim, is you've got to get that T2, you've got to get that metal storage down. Nice thing is that once you've finished using it, you can eat it again, and you'll get slightly more than you paid for it back.
Slightly, 45% more. Sounds like pretty good banking to me.
Slightly. You get 500 back when you paid 300. It's a steal.
T2 coming up for Winera. Andy.
Sorry,
and
just real quick. Pro Andy is doing something that I do, which is I eat my constructors when I need metal. And that is exactly what he's doing also. He's only eaten 1 so far, but I do love to see others doing that. He's also doing another thing that I do, which is pull all of the builders off so that all the metal goes straight into that advanced T2 lab. Doesn't have quite enough of those converters down, so pulling the comm off and pulling the build power off to get those up and running. Good call. Always interesting to see a very high-level player trying this for the first time and learning some of the pitfalls that we as veterans are already aware of, but then watching just how they manage to overcome them. One of the reasons why I'm very focused in, want to see how he takes this, and if he does play a second time, see just how much he improves from it.
One of the things I don't love about on the game, I'm just selecting Jug and going to a player view, you can actually see Duffy's commander has that red beam sticking out of it when it detonates. I know that was introduced into the game a few months ago. Kind of gives away where the players are, which I don't love. I like to know, I get the intel from radars and the like. So yeah, it's going to be difficult there for Jug and Methodical Killer up against one of the best players of King of the Hill.
Does look like we've got T2 up for most of the kings. Just started for Soldier Wolfie and just about finished for Tank Tom. So everyone getting theirs similar sort of timing.
Okay, what are we at? 5 minutes 40, so a few minutes left. What you want to see out of each of these triangles is one of the peasants going into T2 and the other one just focusing on eco until about the 8.5 minute mark, and then going into a ton of ticks or grunts or pawns, which we are seeing, looks like in every quadrant here. Yep, I've got just the one T2 lab out of each triangle, so nicely done. Everyone's learning.
Everyone is indeed learning. Unlike last game where my triangle partner decided to not get T2 when they were the T2 player.
Is that me?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to build that. I did go into 2 fusions though. I did, yeah. Look, I might have slightly picked on the fact that we were up against a player that hadn't played King of the Hill before.
Slightly.
It's called greed.
It was very greedy, and if there'd been any offensive units, would have fallen. We started at 10 minutes with 10 grunts, I think 10 pawns ish, and a bunch of ticks.
I had a commander. You can't forget the commander in this game. Most powerful.
Oh yeah, because the commander was could be used on the offensive with this rule set. All
right, some defenses coming up around out of Wanira. You can see Beamer's going to be put down by Duffy. I like the
beamers a lot for defense.
Twin guards go alright. You can see them coming out of Soldier, but I would like to see them being built on the edge of the circle. And we've got Andy going into first fusion. Going to be coming up at about the 8 minute mark, and that's going to be perfect for putting out a T2 lab. And wouldn't be surprised if we see your usual fiends.
I suspect so. Getting some complaints in chat that Randy shouldn't be allowed to be a king. But he's actually slightly behind my pace for the for being a king. Not saying that's a bad thing at all. He's new to doing this. Just an interesting comment. A lot of people like to backseat into these, but the win rate's actually pretty even between peasants and kings. Yep, the skill level does have does play quite into it. But it's players like Duffy that you really have to be scared of, who have been playing this for a very long time. Duffy right now with an income of 35 metal compared to... What is being reclaimed? There's no way you have plus 71. How does Duffy have... Oh no, yeah, Duffy with 94 income. And Pro Andy with 71. I was quite surprised at what was happening there, but it was just a momentary little bug. Didn't see the right metal.
Okay, sorry guys, yeah, just casting this live, putting the announcements in there. There's 90 seconds to go. Who do you think's going to lose out of the kings in their lane? I'm thinking Soldier Wolf is going to very much struggle there.
Well, he is going to struggle, but what is it that because this is the 3-player eco, and they're at 9 minutes. One of the players doesn't have a lab. In fact, both of the players, the only person with a lab is the 3rd player. So he's going to have a bit of extra time on his hands. I think that the player that's going to struggle the most is... Actually, I don't see much in the way of anyone
going aggressive. He's not going lab because he's going with a Twitcher into Fiends. I don't mind that. He needs energy though. He needs Sivan to donate all that energy. It's going to be interesting. 30 seconds left. Wanira, I think, has got enough defense, and Jags just really do work. So I think Wanira is safe. Duffy doesn't even have a problem at all.
Yeah, Duffy's very safe.
I think Tom has gone into a second fusion without.
If you're going to get the second fusion, you have to do it before your lab.
He is lucky though. The players that he's gone up against don't look like to be building any units, so I think he might be fine actually.
All right, we're at that 9 minute 55 seconds. Just about to hit that 10 minute. Announce the go, 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 and let's see who's going to attack first. Looks like right out of the gate, Winera is going to be very aggressive against the pot, and Duffy is sending his T1 units at Jug and his T2s at Methodic Killer. Methodic Killer will struggle against this being a very new player, and we'll see how well Jug does. Jug is going to lose his comm, I think. It is caught out of position, and good D-gun, and it looks like it's going to run past and run into those welders, so no real damage done. Having a quick look down at the pot, and the pot is being attacked on two fronts by those Jags. Great little detonation of an EMP, but still the Jags coming around the other side going to punch their way through all the conversion down, and that's going to be a big problem. Looks like they're running over to try and see what they can get done on
Pro
Kebab.
Randy getting hacked now, but getting out the EMP bot to stop those welders pushing through. I think that's going to be enough. Yep.
With those Twin Guards and the Scorpions, going to have enough defense up here to push those back, and the T1s push back as well. Tank Tom getting out there with some Fiends, but falling to the Pulsar. Does look like the Fiends have managed to push into Soldier Wolfie, though, and done plenty of damage there.
Seeing we've got a spy bot here for Stinkbee into the base of Tank Tom. What is its purpose?
Just some scouting information for the time being.
Looks like
Tank Tom
Duffy...
does have the... Tank Tom going into a third fusion. That is greedy.
Yeah.
But Duffy definitely taking out Methodic Killer. Those... He has been favouring the Mausers lately, and they seem to be doing quite a good job for him.
It's actually closer than I thought. I would have thought Winera and Duffy would have won their lanes quite quickly, but oh no. Jug's sending all these welders in, but he's got no energy to fund them, and they are just falling without doing any damage at all.
They do get the conversion and the build and some of the build power, which is nice, but that's a big metal donation.
I think that was just from the explosion of the units. Duffy's going to be the first to win their lane, so similarly the king has fallen over in the form of Soldier Wolfie, and we wouldn't mind seeing Grumpiness and Red Hawk as well as Sivan going out and attacking Tank Tom, which is happening now. Sivan's going into that lane, so Tank Tom's allowed to go and attack the other triangle. There we go. And
Winera in big trouble, having a huge chunk of his base taken out by welders, though there isn't much of a follow-up that's coming, so he may well be able to recover. And with Pro Andy doing so well and being on the offensive, might have some backup coming in. Looks like trying to take the day with some Gremlin tanks.
Very nice EMP out of Andy, just taking out Orat's entire pawn army. No damage taken. Bit of a race here. We've got Duffy, definite win. Sivan, Grumpiness, and Red Hawk, definite win. Winera, I don't know.
Sivan and Red Hawk really need to be pushing out a little bit harder and getting as much of those mexes as possible, as much of that fusion as possible, consolidating their power and then moving in to help. Tank Tom still critically weak, and so is Pro Andy. Pro Andy still unable to break any of his peasants, and reasonably even front for the pot.
Winera's got some Spire tanks, their gremlins, into the base of...
Yes.
Who's this? Kebab. What's going to be the target? Probably the T2 lab. I don't know what else you'd go for. Maybe the build power?
Probably the build power. I'd be going the build power. Amazing how small the area that they have
I'd be just running these straight through.
Oh, they are now visible. They have started shooting. They're going for some of the wind.
I'd be running them
I
out of there.
Done that.
Yeah, I would have just gone straight through what he's doing now and get them out of the way of everything. There we go.
Big conversion hits, and if you can take the build power, that's going to be hugely problematic. Ooh.
Got one. The sprinters
body blocking. Yeah, actually body blocking with the sprinters. Well done. Really, really good defense out of Kebab. Super good defense out of Kebab.
Tom is doing good to hold off now 3 players. Same with Andy. He's going
He
for
just
an
has to hold
APHIS.
on for.
Wow.
He just has to hold on for a little while the Duffy machine powers up. If you look at Duffy's build queue, there are well, there were 15 APHIS in the queue. They've been they're back. 15 APHIS getting ready to be built. Duffy going with that mega greed.
I don't mind it. It means
like...
it's more entertainment for us. He could probably just go around and really take out these players adjacent, but if he's just being defensive at the moment, I know he is going in. The pot's going to have problems.
Tank Tom up to 5 fusion, getting an APHIS.
Yeah,
that scaling's going to be pretty hard.
One spider
hardcore.
One spider bot up the back of his base is going to be a problem.
Yes, does not have the defense, but he is building the radars, so should get decent coverage and should have a decent amount of warning. But it does look like these fiends have potentially found an entrance in, splitting them off. Oh no, yep, they're all going to charge straight into those T1 tanks. Fiends against T1 tanks are not necessarily the absolute strongest, particularly when you run into the comm as well, but still going to punch through and still going to do a decent amount of damage. Just need to get a little bit of fire onto, there we go. A little bit of fire onto some of these things, and that's a big chunk of the conversion
I want to see this. He's taking his commander into their base. Well, Wanira does love a comm bomb. It's going to leave the kings with only 2 commanders though.
And he has managed to clean up Kebab finally after Kebab's heroic defense. So it does look like the extra pressure from Duffy has meant that he wasn't able to help Kebab, and Wanira was able to whittle Kebab down. Wanira getting spotted. Good D-guns though, takes that out, and it looks like he will get out of range of those turrets and just survive.
I think here is the start of the end, potentially. I mean, I have just seen that Grumpiness has drawn where he's going to attack up the back of Tank Tom's base, and Tank Tom.
That's going to be painful for Tank Tom. Fiends, Tank Tom has seen it though. He's with the radar, he knows it's coming. He's sending the Fiends. The question is the unit defense going to be good enough? With 1 termite, it looks like that one... How high up can it get and be out of range of those Fiends? I think it's actually going to get in. The
commander's going to be there, it's fine.
No,
they're fine.
Oh, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. We'd love to see that eco explode.
Why do we like to see our friends die?
We like to see explosions of eco. And also we want to see more kings taken out. Bit of a flip compared to last time. Self-detonation on most of the stuff in this base to prevent them from being rezzed by Wanira, making sure that they can't get the metal. Good call right there. If you're going to lose your stuff, you might as well lose it hardcore, so there's nothing remaining for the king to take. Similarly, if you're a king and you're losing, make sure that the peasants can't take your stuff. We had a good amount of reclaim and what's it called? Capturing from in the previous round.
Demon out for Andy now, so I think that's probably enough to push through. There are a few snipers though, I just heard.
But a couple of snipers are going to struggle to take on a demon. You need quite a few of them and a bit of time, and the demon will get into the base regardless, I think.
Mind on that demon, I wouldn't mind just seeing it walk straight in.
Yes.
I think Tom's doing really well with all these fiends. Definitely overflowing a lot. He needs to throw up a T3 lab, I reckon. He needs 2 APHISs at the same time as well. Really trying to spend that money.
But one of them's only being built by a single build turret, so not the ideal. Does look like Duffy is scaling pretty hard now. He's got his build turrets up, getting conversion, getting those APHISs, and going to be pushing right on through. Has helped Wanira win his lane, and now Wanira is getting ready for a big assault on 2 Barsky. Barsic? Anyway. Does look like the cavalry is arriving to bail Pro Andy out, who's been very locked in this entire time.
Yeah, would love to see the adjacent kings just let the peasants have a go at having a chance here. I don't think it's going to happen. That's just way too much coming out of Wanira. Followed up on the other side with Duffy with some Razorbacks heading in to help defend Tank Tom.
Yes, there have been plenty of opportunities for the peasants to get more aggressive. For example, Red Hawk and uh, Grumpiness definitely could have pushed harder into, could have pushed Tank Tom harder or pushed Pro Andy harder. Getting a lot of eco as the peasant player isn't necessarily going to win you the game because of that 45% scaling. The kings will scale exponentially. So getting stuck in is what needs to happen. And now that Duffy's spam is joining the fight, Tank Tom is going to bust his out.
Yeah, he's coming really online there. That's plenty of ticks coming out of their base, and yeah, I think this is pretty much over for the peasants, with Duffy coming online in the background there.
Yes,
And there goes
very,
Andy
very...
pushing through, taking all those daemons now in with a move command rather than a fight command. And that should be enough to get through these Warns and Beamers.
Good coordination by the peasants. They've definitely been trying to work this through, but they have given the kings too much time to scale at this point. And it would be a very, very hard fought battle. I've only seen one fight that went super long in Claymore, where the peasants managed to take the victory despite the insane scaling. Oh no, actually the kings won that one. Now that I remember, it just felt like a peasant game because I moved to the outside of the map so that I could stop getting spidered.
Yeah, this is going to hurt. We've got 4 peasants left now. Don't see Sleepy holding off much, just with T1 units coming out. No T2 lab anymore. And although T3 up for Think Beat, it's not going to be enough.
Tank Tom getting that T3 lab up, finally able to spend that metal. And the huge amounts of spam mean that we're going to be running into big troubles. Tank Tom finally into the back of, looks like, Stinkbee's base. Getting the wind, which is not such a big deal. Still got the fusions and the Aphis to power it up, and a defensive Razorback should still hold that out for a little while.
It's really tipping point. This game I feel like could have gone either way if Guppy hadn't won his lane so quickly. If a king does manage to win, similarly if a peasant's managed to win their lane in like 2 to 3 minutes, it's essentially either going to become 4 against 1 in the peasant's favour if the peasants win, or 2 against 2, with obviously way better eco coming from the kings.
I actually slightly disagree with that. I think that this would have been a more even game if the attack that went into Wanira's base, if those welders had been powered. I think that would have been a really big difference, because instead of the donation, they would have been
that was Duffy's lane. The welders, that was Jug going into Duffy's lane.
Apologies. If Jug had managed to power those welders, I think this would have been quite a different game, because Wanira managed to win his lane because they had to defend against Duffy.
I do think with Wanira's lane, he did lose a big portion of his eco, but that was when only one player was attacking him. If both players were attacking at the same time, then they probably would have lost. There goes the last commander, and a win for the Kings.
GG, and very strong play from the Kings.
You can see their damage dealt heaps coming out of Tom and Duffy. Tom constantly reducing those fiends, his favourite unit. Lots out of the peasants as well, so not too dissimilar damage dealt, 1.2 to 900,000.
We do see a decent amount of aggression out of the peasants. The green player, the blue player, and the purple player all getting right up there in the beginning. If we'd seen a little bit more of that, I reckon it would have been a much more balanced game.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into the next one. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. And if you'd like to check out these games, jump on the Discord link in the description below. We host them every Sunday.
Cheers, everyone. Catch you in the next one.